Okay, I thought I'd make a quick little update video on the motorcycle. As you can see there, it's got the Ohlins suspension installed finally. And made a few other little updates. It's got a carbon fiber quarter turn quick release gas cap, which I'm pretty happy about. I've got some titanium countersunk bolts holding it on. And you can see you just push down, turn, and it comes out. This is made by, I believe it's accossato out of Italy. And I bought it through Rider's Discount, as I remember. Anyways, very nice cap. I'm very pleased with the quality of construction on it. I think it dresses up the top of the motorcycle a little bit. Also, I put on some Renthal road race grips. So you can see here, these are the firm compound. I like the way they look, but they're not very comfortable as far as riding. I mean, the grip is really good, and I like the way they look, but they aren't kidding when they say firm. It's almost like grabbing the bar. There's very little reduction in vibration, and I've noticed even after short rides, it fatigues your hands a lot more than the stock grip. So I think I'm going to switch out and try the driven. I think it's the diamond grippy grips or gel grips or something. I also ordered some pro grips, so I might be putting those on soon. Anyways, installing them's not too bad. You have to, the stock grips are glued on kind of in the middle, so you have to slice them with a razor blade and then clean off the clip on. And then I just use a little bit of degreaser. It's an organic, natural degreaser that I've shown in some of my other videos, and just use that and then compressed air to get this on. I didn't use any glue or anything. I was going to wire tie it, but I need to order a different diameter safety wire. And like I say, I think I'm going to switch these out, try something that gives a little more cushioning. Let me see what else. Oh, and then on the throttle side, same deal. It's just for anyone who's changing their grips on the motorcycle. There's a plastic throttle tube here. The OEM grip is not glued on, so you just basically use compressed air up from the end to expand the grip, and then you can work it off. And then it's just the reverse process to put it on. So let's see what else here. Oh, I put in some little stainless steel button head screws, 5 millimeters. Just you can see they've got like a little plastic washer under there. So I thought that kind of gave the bike a little bit of a race look. I was in the motorcycle store and I saw the Ducatis had that. So I kind of liked the way it looked on that bike, so I put those on. And let's see, as mentioned, got the Ohlins Forks in. I think I showed these in some of the other videos. There's a stroke indicator here, which is kind of handy for adjusting the suspension. I'm running these at I think it's 12 or 13 clicks out on the compression and rebound, which seems to work pretty well for the street. As mentioned in my other video, I'm running 9.5 springs, and the oil level is 180 millimeters, which is 10 millimeters lower as far as filling up the capacity than the default specs. And what that does, it just gives you a little more air in the forks, which at the extremes of the operation of the forks, is supposed to make it a little bit more compliant for the street. Let's see what else. On the rear suspension, I can't remember if I mentioned or not, but I was kind of unhappy with the way the bike cornered, because it just turned in so quickly because of the the height in the rear, and just making some adjustments to the suspension. So what I ended up doing was slotting the clevis mount to lower the back 3 millimeters. And then I had to make like a little stainless steel kind of half moon insert to take up the top, excuse me, the top half of the slot. And then I went over to Kyle Racing. I don't know if you can see in there. I went over to Kyle Racing and I swapped the 100 Newton per millimeter spring for the 95, which is actually what normally is shipped on this rear shock from Ohlins. This is the YA343. So that worked pretty well. I recently slid the forks down about 4 millimeters. You can see it's pretty much flush with the triple tree, the top of the triple tree. This is technically a little lower than it's supposed to be, but functionally it's fine. They recommend that the bottom or the lip of the fork tube, the goal part, is flush with this, but I don't think 4 millimeters is structurally going to make any difference. They do sell fork extender tubes. It's like a cap that gives you maybe about 25 or 30 more millimeters. So I might put that on, but just raising the front of the bike 4 millimeters helped a lot. Let me see what else. I think that's about it. Future plans, I think I'm gonna order the Marchesini magnesium wheels for the bike, the Jinsi, I believe is how you pronounce it, M7 rims. And then I'm gonna switch over to a different set of tires. Right now I'm running the Diablo Corsa 3. This is the 190/55 size, which is a slightly taller profile than the 190/50 that comes on the 2005 R1. It gives the bike a little easier turn-in and better handling, in my opinion. I talked to Pirelli, and I was trying to figure out what tire I wanted to run, and the tire, kind of the evolution of this Corsa 3 is the Diablo Rosso Corsa. Pirelli, the road race guys over at Pirelli said that the Rosso was about 20% better as far as tires go than what I have now. There's also a SuperCorsa SP, as well as a SuperCorsa that comes in different race compounds. The SP is their street version, which is supposed to heat up a little bit faster. I believe it's also a dual compound like this tire is. They have it in different sizes. I think I'm going to try the 255, which you would think because it's a 200, it's 200 millimeters in width, whereas this one is 190. I actually talked to Pirelli and got the specs. This one I think is 190, 191 millimeters across, and the Rosso and the SuperCorsa, well, let's see, the Rosso, I think it was 190, but it was actually a few millimeters larger. And then the 255 SuperCorsa SP, it's like 194 or something, so it's only 3 millimeters. And so there's plenty of clearance. So looking forward to trying that. It's got a slightly different profile. It's also a couple millimeters taller, but it's not too significant. Anyways, as far as the suspension goes, I'm pretty happy with it. The bike, compared to the factory suspension, it's like, I wouldn't say it's night and day difference, but it's definitely, the bike is much sharper on the road now, and much more, it just feels like it's more precision. Also, the with the Ohlins suspension, things are just, I guess you would say, everything is much more sensitive. I mean, even just making, one click on the rebound or the compression has a noticeable impact on how the bike handles now. So after installing the Ohlins, it really makes everything on the bike kind of hypersensitive. The bike has more kind of like a razor sharp feel, and definitely, you know, people who say, I wish I had done the suspension as soon as I got the bike, I definitely understand what they're talking about now, because it gives you a lot more confidence. But with kind of the race suspension, it makes it so that everything you do is a lot more, has a lot bigger impact. For example, now just changing the tire pressure 1 or 2 psi is very noticeable on how the bike handles. Originally I was running, I think it was 35 or 36 psi in the front, and then I was running about between 40, somewhere usually between 38 and 40 in the rear, and that worked pretty well. When I switched over to the Ohlins and got it dialed in, then the tire pressure became a lot more significant on how the bike handled. And I tested a lot of different pressures. I ultimately ended up running 33 in the front and then 33 in the rear. And then I've got almost no preload on the rear suspension. I'm about 170 with gear, and on the preload adjuster, you can see I've got it marked here with a little, I don't know if you can see that. You can see I've got it marked right there with a little line, but I run it with where it just picks up a little bit. And so that gives me, if I remember correctly, it was about, I want to say about 16 millimeters of sag in the rear, and that's static sag. So with rider sag, probably about, I want to say about 20, 22, something like that. And in the front, with 13 turns of preload on these and the 9.5 springs, I think it was 12 or 13 clicks on the compression rebound. I believe I was getting 39 millimeters of rider sag, which is right about where you want for the street. And in the rear, I was talking with Kyle Racing, and I believe the 16 millimeters of static sag is a little excessive, but I found that I do like to run the back a little bit softer, just because it gives me a little more confidence on the road and takes up some of the imperfections in the road. On the track might be a little bit different, but I don't know yet. And then as far as settings in the back, I believe I'm running, I want to say on the low speed compression, I think I'm running 11 clicks. And then on the rebound, I'm running 35, which is that knob underneath that you turn. And then speaking with Ohlins, they said basically anything after 25 turns out on the rebound is wide open. But again, I've tried everything from like 5 to 25, 30, 35. For some reason, the bike feels good to me when it's at around 30 to 35. And then on the high speed, which is this 12, I think it's 12 millimeter nut outside here, I've got it set at 37, which again is wide open, just so that if the bike impacts something, you know, dramatic, the tire will move instead of launching me over. So kind of gives the rear of the bike kind of a little bit of a kind of a squishy feel, I guess you might say, but I can kind of dial that feeling in more precise by using the low speed circuit. So the compression kind of keeps the back end sharp feeling, but the rebound aspect of it kind of absorbs the bumps. So that really produces a nice feel, in my opinion, for the street. Keeps the suspension fairly plush feeling. Same with the forks, you know, running them at 12 or 13 out. And of course, I have my notes, so if I could look up the notes and get the exact number. But recently I've been kind of playing around right around 12 and 13 clicks out. So, anyways, pretty happy with how things are set up. Like I said, I'm going to try some different lighter rims and different tires. The other thing I wanted to say was the Scott's damper really, ever since doing the Ohlins suspension, the Scott's damper has really become a lot more critical when I originally put this on when the bike was totally stock, because I had a kind of a weird, kind of like a weird head shake problem. And yeah, I couldn't figure out what it was, and I thought, well, maybe it's the damper. So I got rid of the stock damper and I put this one on. But it turned out, I found out later, just the head shake that I was getting around 55, 60 miles an hour was actually from unbalanced older tires. So I switched new tires and I did a static balance to approximately 1/4 gram. That took out the kind of the weird harmonic head shake thing that I was getting. And then for a while I kind of felt like, oh man, I wasted, whatever this thing cost, 300, 400, 500 bucks on this. But now that the suspension is more precise and a lot more sensitive, this thing has really paid off, because it kind of, when you make little adjustments to the forks settings or whatever, the bike will, turn more quickly or more slowly. And then this really is handy because you can adjust it on the fly and kind of use it to dampen down that effect of the bike, either turning too quickly or not quickly enough. Oh, the other thing I put on that I wanted to show was I added a gear shift indicator down. I don't know if you can see it down here. It's made by Healtech, I believe it is, which is the same people who make the speedometer healer or speedo healer or whatever they call it, which this bike I did put it on. Anyway, you can see, turn it on here, and you can see it count up down there. Let me do it one more time. So that's really handy, because as you're driving along, or riding along rather, it'll tell you what gear you're in. The bike has to be moving a couple miles per hour, and you have to be up over 1,000 RPMs, I believe. But it is real nice to know what gear you're in. They have different colors. I went with white just because I wanted to try to match the speedometer, not try to match the blue color. So anyways, and you can see I fabricated a little aluminum mount in here, and then used some self-vulcanizing tape to hold the wires. So kind of just holding that in place there. Works pretty well. Alright, I think that's it for the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.